That sounds like a James Bond quote or something. Right?
That would be a good one.
Put on your clothes and I'll buy you an ice cream. That's an actual Bond quote.
It just sounds really creepy.
Sean Connery. All right.
Sounds like he's with a child.
I know. It is creepy. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Awesome Hardware. Live show. We stream every Tuesday evening at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Talk about technology, computers mostly, gaming PCs, the parts that go in them, and whether they're good or not, and what we think about them. It's a very good show. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live, we stream to twitch.tv/awesomehardware the entire show, including like messy setup stuff at the beginning. Thanks, Twitch, for helping us get the audio better than it was when we originally started streaming.
We always do.
Sorry we're running a little late as usual, but thank you guys for being here. Quick word of warning, we do occasionally use adult language on the show, and we enjoy a beer or two or three. Cheers, thanks for joining us. If you're joining us, and
shout out to Wifey Sauce for getting the beers.
Oh yeah, Wifey Sauce.
And shout out to Sal in chat, our good friend and moderator, keeping things under control.
Smog City Brewing Company Coffee Porter is what we are currently drinking.
It's just straight, thick coffee lava.
Really, yeah, it's
amazing.
There's a decent amount of coffee in there. It's going to keep me awake. Keep me awake.
Java.
My mic's working fine. Shut up.
Ah!
Anyway.
Headphone users.
I'll put the mic closer to my face.
Let's do an ASMR episode.
There we go.
Let's now.
Groovy. A quick plug for our stores if you guys want to help support the stuff we do. What the heck is that? Excuse me. Check out our stores. PulseHardware.net is mine. You can buy things there. Shirts, mugs, pint glasses, bottle openers, and other stuff too, like thumb screw keycaps. Look at that. Get a thumb screw keycap.
Woo! Look
put
at that
it on
thing.
your computer.
Do you use one of those?
Yes, I have.
Is it on your escape key, or where do you put it usually?
Yeah, it's on the escape key.
That's a good option.
Set up with.
Everyone can locate the escape key very easily.
Also, bitwit.tech/store if you want to buy Kyle's merch.
Mm-hmm.
It's also real nice. It all comes from the same place. Don't be shy about ordering from both of our stores. If you do place your orders at the same time, they will ship together. You'll get a little bit of a refund on your shipping cost. And also, if you buy the Awesome Hardware merch, it doesn't matter which store you buy it from. Kyle and I both get your money either way.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Get your money.
And you get super awesome quality merchandise, which you will cherish for, I won't say forever, because nothing lasts forever, but for a good amount of time.
Oh, they got really
longer,
deep.
Perhaps, than you might expect to cherish something like a shirt or a mug or a pint glass. All right, we're spending
It lasts you a long time.
Too much time on the stories. All right. What the hell's going on? News.
I don't know.
Let's do some tech news.
Where are we?
Technology news. That's what we're talking about.
It sounds super, Paul.
Of course, it's very super.
Very super indeed.
Now, I just want to point out that this dropped this morning, right here.
Not by Linus, apparently.
Boom. The Nvidia drop for this week. So we've known this week was going to be busy because AMD is launching not just CPUs, but also GPUs. That's on Sunday, 7/7. But Nvidia was like, we're just going to slip in and launch just a few days before that. We're going to call it the RTX Super cards. There's a 2060 and a 2070 Super that reviews went up for this morning. And then there's also going to be a 2080 Super, which will be available, I believe, on July 23rd. Yeah. So the short story of it, if you haven't watched any of the reviews that went up, is that they're faster. So like the 2060 Super is better than the 2060. Big surprise. 2070 Super is better than a 2070. We assume the same will go for the 2080 Super.
No, that's a concept.
The 2060 Super is actually a decent bump up over the existing 2060 because you get 8 gigs of GDDR6 instead of 6. You also get more memory bandwidth, so it's like 448 gigabytes per second instead of. Wait, no. Anyway, I should look at my chart before I.
I just know the memory bus width went from 192 to 256.
Yeah, memory bus went from 192 to 256.
Do the math.
So that's what's I asked Nvidia about that. I was like, is it the memory or like what? Because they're aiming this card at 1440 gameplay, and they said actually the bus width being wider is a bit more important than having 8 gigs versus 6.
Right.
Of course, there are some specific situations where you might need more than 6, but we're not calling that out quite yet. Yes, Navi is 7.7, so all that stuff launching 7.7. Anyway, aesthetically, the card is super shiny in the middle.
Super shiny.
It's got a reflective thing there, and they put the word super after the name of the card on the back plate and everything. Yeah, so anyway, check out the videos that went up on that if you want a little bit more details. I have linked specifically in the description to Gamers Nexus article as well as Hardware Unboxed article. Gamers Nexus article is on the Gamers Nexus website. There's also a 27-minute video from Steve, which I listened to on the way over here. Man, he talks fast.
He's a fast talker.
He sure does talk fast.
Sweet talker.
But those will list you the specs and whatnot, comparing the new cards to the old cards. And I also derived a little bit more because, you know, we all have limited time for testing and test in different ways and stuff like that. And I found some stuff from Steve's article. For instance, the graphics processing clusters, they're listing 5 or 6. Steve goes into some details about his theories about how they're binning the GPUs, but basically saying, like for the 2070 Super, they're getting 2080. Like if you have a GPU die that can't quite be a 2080 because some SM units are not quite up to par, not fully functional, and you have to turn them off, then they're using those for 2070 Super. So 2070 Super, closer to a 2080 in a lot of tests. And maybe people will be interested in that because the 2080 formerly was started at $700 and now you can get a 2070 Super for $500. The thing that I kind of most appreciate about this, although I feel like it's a slight clarification of something that was already somewhat confusing, which is the Founders Edition pricing. You know, and like for the 2070, there was a $500 starting price, but then the Founders Edition was $600. For the 2080, there was a $700 starting price, but then the Founders Edition was $800.
The formula's changed for this.
Yeah,
right?
so that meant that you had like the sort of entry level, like the budget option for those cards, but that was usually the most cut down version of the cards. And I think a lot of vendors felt more comfortable pricing their cards up 80 or $100, kind of more in the Founders Edition range, because the Founders Edition existed there at that price, being like, look, this is a legitimate price to sell that card for.
Yeah.
Bringing the Founders Edition prices back down to the base level price, that being $700 when the 2080 Super comes out, and $500 for the 2070 Super, I think will help the overall prices of those cards and bring it down, and maybe people will feel that they're not quite as overpriced as a lot of people felt they were in the past when they first launched.
Yeah.
2060 Super is the one that does have a price increase because it's $400 compared to the 2060, which will still be around for $350.
That memory improvement, I think, is well worth it. Probably.
So, but yeah, you do get the memory bump. But now you do also have a 60 class card, a 60, selling for $400.
Yeah. Eventually.
Remember back what was the GTX 970? Remember the popularity of the GTX 970 with its 3.5 gigs?
You get that
what
for
did
like
that sell for?
320
to
330,
330, and that was a 70
yeah
series card. So
right.
Just as has been happening with Nvidia for many, many years, I've been sort of harping on this ever since they first launched the Titan as a $1,000 card, and they were like, no, it's not a gaming card. Look at it in all these gaming PCs, but it's not a gaming card. And I feel like that was where Nvidia does this really, it's like a very smart game from a business perspective, but it's where they kind of steadily inflate the costs or the prices of their cards, you know, at different tiers and everything like that. So. You know, you can look at it both ways.
Sounds like Intel a little bit.
Performance-wise, for $400, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive card, and I'm sure it will pair up nicely against the Navi cards. And that's really what Nvidia was after with this launch, was just sort of reshuffling their stack so that on Sunday when people do, because people can't, if you did all your testing last week and you didn't know about the super cards,
oh yeah, you're screwed.
Like you can't just, people next week aren't going to be able to be like, here's Navi and here is it compared to all the 2000 series cards, but not the super ones.
Right.
Like that's not going to count anymore. And it kind of sucks on some level, but at the same time, like Nvidia can do what they want.
Yeah.
And if they've got the cards, then they can launch them and make them available in volume, then
right.
it's
And because the
it's
non-super
capitalism. It's cutthroat.
And the non-super version of these cards are being phased out, correct?
Yes.
So it's even more irrelevant. Like you won't even be able to buy those cards, so like the benchmarks don't even matter that much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like this launch has been received one of two ways, where it's either like, oh, people are super excited because they're getting more performance for less money technically than what was seen at launch for the RTX cards, and then the other school of thought is like, well, this is what Nvidia should have launched these cards for in the first place, and they're kind of dicking us around and shrouding this, guising it as a deal, when in reality, you know, they kind of were just, they should have done this in the first place all along. But I feel like that's, like you said, it's just capitalism. Like Nvidia is so ahead of the game that their GPU game is so on point compared to AMD right now that they can afford to roll out really beefy products, whatever prices they want, and then they can easily just like slash prices as needed to top the competition. I mean, I say top lightly because we haven't tested our X5700 yet to see how that stacks up, but it seems...
No, we haven't, Kyle.
No, we haven't.
And you obviously haven't either.
No, I definitely haven't. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because I'm a man of honor. But
good. Very
we'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, all true points. A couple more details from the articles that I just wanted to pull out. I thought this was some stuff that was a little bit more than just kind of the benchmark numbers that I've been throwing around. When it comes to performance difference, by the way, you're looking at about a 10 to 15% performance bump. More like a 10% bump for the 2070 and about closer to 15% for the 2060. Of course, it's going to vary depending on the games that you're testing and resolution and all that stuff. But that's why it's best to check out multiple reviews and see what people experienced when they did the testing. I noticed from the Gamers Nexus review, they did some frequency tuning, a 30-minute 3D Mark burn-in to test frequency over time and especially sustained frequency. Noted that the RTX 2070 Super had a nearly perfectly flat line in their charts for frequency, which means there's minimal frequency fluctuation, which is a good thing. It's running about 1,890 megahertz out of the box, which is pretty much the same frequency I saw. So good. Cards are performing the same. Also, the RTX 2080 Super, which had limited information, Nvidia did send out a spec sheet for it just like a day or two before launch. So that information is available as far as the full specs of the RTX 2080 Super. But $700 is going to be the price. July 23rd is apparently going to be the launch. It's going to have 15.5 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory. Nvidia says it will be faster than the Titan XP, which should be good. Also, since I mentioned it, but I haven't shown it yet, Hardware Unboxed did one of their typically, Steve did one of his typically very in-depth, many games tested reviews of the 2060 and 2070. Also has the charts there with all their specs, and I really like Steve's charts. They're really good. I like how he highlights. So you can sort of see this is like a microcosm that plays out in the stack. You got the 2080 Ti and the 2080, then you got the 2070 below that. 1080 Ti is also going to be playing around in that same range. This is Battlefield 5 1440 DirectX 11, by the way. Below the 2070 Super, you have the 2070. Below that, the 2060 Super. Below that is the 2060, which is right about around the same range as the 1080. And then you also have the Vega 56 and Vega 64 showing up here and there. But honestly, Vega 56 and Vega 64, I feel like are not as, I mean, they're still there. You can still get them and everything, but I feel like Navi is going to really make Vega 56 and 64 even less relevant than they already are. But that's coming on Sunday as far as the comparisons there. Power consumption. RTX 2060 Super is very efficient, only 5% more power than the standard 2060, and just 2% or 4 watts more than the Radeon RX 590. So that's cool, given that it destroys the RX 590 when it comes to performance. 2070 Super uses 11% more power than the 2060 Super, so that is more. That's understandable given that it's got a different GPU die and everything, but it does use 20% less power than the Radeon 7. Anyway, articles linked in the description. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this later in the show, but we'll come back to that. Moving on though, PCI Express 6.0.
6.0.
6.0.
Why?
This article is actually a couple weeks old, but I wanted to bring this up because we like to talk about stuff coming in the future. An Antec article, and there it is.
We're just now getting 4.0. Why do we
I
need
know.
6.0?
Because Kyle, PCI, the PCI SIG, the PCI Special Interest Group,
They sigging me.
they're embarrassed. They were embarrassed, you know, right? Wait, what happened?
Right. Wait, what?
Sorry. They were embarrassed by the amount of time that it took them to get to PCI Express 4.0 because we've been on 3.0 forever.
Yeah.
Like
Trying to make up for lost time.
There's been times in the past when these core specs that are used within the computer get upgraded, and I feel like at certain times you'll see rapid increase, like SATA. Remember when SATA first came out? You had SATA revision 1, it's 1.5 gigabit, then revision 2, and then revision 3. And I feel like 1, 2, 3 came within a relatively short time frame.
Yeah.
And then suddenly SATA Rev 3, 6 gigabit per second was just like the top, the peak.
For a while,
For like
yeah.
a while. It was like you get a SATA SSD, and it took them a while to, anyway. Point being, PCI Express Special Interest Group actually committed after Gen 4, when they initially announced Gen 4, they said, we are also going to be accelerating our development schedule so that they will be launching more revisions of PCI Express more quickly. So that's why we've already talked about PCI Express 5.0. That was just a few weeks back that they announced some of the details for that, doubling the bandwidth yet again from 4.0 to 5.0, and 6.0 will double the bandwidth yet again, which is kind of crazy.
We don't need it.
Yes, up to so a by 16 slot will hit 128 gigabytes per second.
Holy
So
Toledo.
it's a lot of bandwidth.
What do you even do with that?
128 gigabytes per second.
We're going to need faster SSDs.
They're expecting to finalize this standard in 2021. They're continuing to do this because they say hardware vendors continually demand more speed. You can see this. This is their chart showing how much better they're getting. So if you look at the older generations of PCI Express and doubling the bandwidth every 3 years, they're increasing that. So by 2021, they'll be up here to 256 by 16 for Gen 6, 128 by 16 for Gen 5, and we're currently right here, us plebs in 20. This feels like it's 2018, but this should be later because it's 2019. Anyway.
Does this necessarily mean that next gen motherboards will have PCIe Gen 5 on them?
No, like finalizing the spec and then having hardware based on it, there's generally a decent amount of gap.
Okay.
So they just did that for 5.0, and we're probably still a year or two out from having 5.0 based. We might see some stuff in 2020.
Right.
It's hard to say. I could see Intel trying to jump on 5.0 to be like, look, you
Yeah.
don't need one of those crappy Ryzen 3000
card.
series things with this 4.0. We have 5.0.
Before any 5.0 devices are available.
Yes. Another reason for them to update the standard is that other major interconnect standards are built off of PCI Express, such as CCIX and Intel CXL. Gen 6 will remain backwards compatible with all the other generations. So that's kind of nice. You can still drop a Gen 1 device into a Gen 6 slot once it comes out. But, and the article goes into much more detail on this, so I encourage you to read it if you are interested. They're actually going to be doing a pretty amount of drastic change under the hood for how they actually handle the signaling, because something they've been doing going from Gen 3 to Gen 4 is they have to have really specific short trace lengths so that they can tighten the signal requirements. In order to go from what they are now to Gen 5 and then Gen 6, they're going to switch from NRZ or non-return to zero technology that's been used since PCI Express was introduced, and they're going to pulse amplitude modulation 4, or PAM4. As you can kind of see here, the comparison, NRZ, basically it can carry it's got two states. It can carry a 0 or 1. Pulse amplitude modulation allows it to carry up to 4 states. So that's cool. It doubles the number of electrical states a single transmission can hold. So rather than the traditional 0-1, high-low signaling, it uses the 4 signal levels so that can encode 4 possible 2-bit patterns, and that will be how they wedge more data into the same slot and the same configuration because, I guess they're not anticipating any drastic change from typical motherboard layouts with ATX and spacing between the CPU and all that.
Nice. Cool.
But so
Clever.
good to know that's in the works.
Clever
And
game.
imagine the crazy SSD that you get that would go 128 gigabytes a second. That's probably
Maybe next year's CES.
that's the maximum theoretical bandwidth. So it would probably go more like 100 gigabytes a second or something like that.
It's a measly,
A little bit less.
measly 100 gigs.
And account for some overhead and everything.
16K.
Yeah.
16K editing. 32K.
All right. Another bit of news here. This is kind of sad news. I'm hoping that this isn't significantly impactful. Another AnandTech article here, but Toshiba and WD had a power outage at their shared NAND facility. Now, I'm not. Well, all right. Well, let's talk about what happened first. Toshiba and WD have. They just disclosed on Friday that back on June 15th, so we're talking 3 weeks or so ago, there was a power outage at these shared facilities. Production at the facilities has been partially halted as of now. They're expecting to resume operations by mid-July. It was a 13-minute power outage, so just 13 minutes, and it impacted wafers that were processed, it impacted the facilities, and it in fact impacted their production equipment. The incident will reduce their NAND flash wafer supply in Q3 by approximately 6 exabytes of data, which is believed to be about half of the company's quarterly supply of NAND. So a 13-minute power outage and half of their supply for a quarter just gone.
What?
13 minutes. And this is a significant facility for NAND production. Where is it? It's in the Yokkaichi, probably Yokkaichi.
Why aren't they using a UPS?
Yeah, that's going to be my thought. The Yokkaichi province in Japan.
I should know this by now.
Is where this is located. The Yokkaichi Operations Campus, which is jointly run by Toshiba and WD, produces 35% of global NAND output in terms of revenue.
Yay!
We have 5 production facilities there, as well as an R&D center.
Does this mean storage prices are going to skyrocket?
This is what we're kind of concerned about. We're not really sure. The article speculates that maybe, but hopefully not. But this could also be one of those things where oh no, we have to raise the prices of our products.
Oh darn! Oh shucks! Too bad. That's the only way we can skirt around this.
Yeah.
Sorry, our hands are tied. 15-20%.
There's an aerial
increase.
Shot of the facility there. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Kyle, you'd think they have a UPS or something like backup generators,
right.
some sort of fail-safe, triple redundant thing to make sure
you think redundancy
that the
would
power
be
can't just go out.
Like a no-brainer for WD and Toshiba.
Yeah.
Like how is this possible? Should have RAID 10 that freaking power setup like a boss, but
that's how it works.
It is how it works.
So taking half of their NAND production, which is 6 exabytes, that's from Toshiba, by the way. That doesn't include WD. So when you include WD, they say it could be as high as 9 exabytes of total data loss as far as what would have been produced otherwise. Combine that together, consider that it accounts for 35% of global NAND production, and we're looking at 1/6 or 16.5% of global NAND supply in Q3 not being there anymore.
Jesus.
So, like the article said, like we've seen in the past with commodities in the PC industry, this has the potential to be used as a reason, and it could be completely legitimate, or it could just be used as a reason to inflate prices. I try not to speculate too much
Tinfoil
on this
hat,
thing.
conspiracy theory, here we come.
But let's just say if you see a good price on a SSD right now, maybe you should
pull that trigger.
Maybe you should buy it rather than waiting for Black Friday.
Yeah.
Again, don't take my advice for anything like that, but
I wonder if someone just tripped on a power cord.
Yeah, it's like, oops.
Just in the cafeteria, with their food tray.
Yeah.
Whoa! Or it could just be all conspiracy.
I think it's a conspiracy.
I think so.
Probably. All right, one more news story here. That is from, oh, look at that.
Oh, Wow.
I don't like to interrupt, but
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Whoa, jeez. All right. Well,
Look at this.
thank you, honey. Look
Yeah,
at this
plate of-
feast. I feel like I'm a Greek
Is that
god.
a seared artichoke?
That is a seared friggin' artichoke.
Oh, this is on
Move
like
aside, super.
This is like on a pewter slab or something like that.
Yeah, what the
too.
heck is this? I didn't even know we had this.
We want plates.
Give me a plate.
Here's, you ever do the we
Oh
want
wow.
plates?
Thought of
separate?
that. Thank you.
Oh, for the
The
artichoke,
this.
please.
Oh my god. Okay.
She scooped out the horny part, the spiky part.
Horny. What?
Horny is probably spiky was the word I was.
Hmm.
I mean, it makes me horny.
What
but
kind of
that's-
artichokes you're into? But
It's funny.
That's
No,
fine.
like we were talking about artichokes a day or two ago, and
Yeah.
that I was like, we should make artichokes. I love
you
artichokes.
were just casually talking about artichokes, like that was a topic, a
We've
serious
been
topic
watching
that brought up.
food stuff because Diana has been watching a lot of YouTube because she's been sitting with the baby a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Get her started young.
anyway, food videos. I'm getting distracted. Back to the story.
I gotta try this,
I
man.
know. I want to finish talking so I can eat that.
Uh-huh.
All right. So if you guys remember.
So
When AMD did their announcements about Navi and stuff, and they showed some demos on stage, one of the things they showed was a PCIe 4.0 bandwidth test that was run by 3D Mark. That actually is not available to people at the time that they showed the tests, but it is available now.
Cool.
So 3D Mark has now released this test. It is called the 3D Mark PCI Express feature test. This is what it looks like, although honestly you guys are probably seeing something that's very pixelated and stuff. It's kind of interesting and fancy.
Weird.
This is testing the bandwidth available to your GPU over your computer's PCI Express interface, which means that if you use it in the way that AMD used it, which is to compare a PCI Express Gen 3 card to a PCI Express Gen 4 card, like their Navi cards are, that you will be like, wow, yes, there's
So much better.
There's a lot of bandwidth there. That doesn't necessarily immediately mean that the cards are going to perform in that same range, which is why a lot of people criticize them for including that test.
Right.
They weren't necessarily false in any of the things they said about it, but
Sure.
you could possibly point to it being perhaps displayed in a somewhat disingenuous way,
Yeah.
especially for people who didn't quite understand what it was doing.
It's a very extreme scenario.
This test aims to make bandwidth the limiting factor in the test by uploading a large amount of vertex and texture data to the GPU for each frame. The result of the test is the average bandwidth achieved. Currently available in 3D Mark Advanced Edition and 3D Mark Professional Edition. And there's a sale going along with it. Until July 9th, 3D Mark Advanced Edition is 85% off, $4.49 from Steam, or you can go directly to the UL Benchmarks website.
Do you have Advanced Edition?
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't
That's
know if
how
I
you
do.
You gotta upgrade if you want to do like Times by Extreme and stuff like that.
I don't think I have that.
Gotta pay. You gotta pay up. You should.
Yeah.
That is a good deal if you probably get
I'll
it.
probably do that.
Might be good for your Navi testing. You can do this PCI Express 4.0
Yeah.
bandwidth
That's
test.
good. Yeah.
Compare it to a 2080 Ti and be like, look how much better it's the 5700 XT
In real
is
world performance.
compared to the 2080 Ti. All right. Yay for news. We're going to do a quick sword fight segment, and then we're going to switch to Kyle's half, which is basically going to be us playing games.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Sword fight, though. Sword fight, haven't done it in a little while. Kyle and I are going to take up opposing sides betwixt an argument. And the sword fight today is going to be surrounding the Nvidia Super GPU launch. Since the questions are quite similar to each other, are going to look at both of the questions first, and then we will
Debate?
debate about them, right?
Sure.
Pretty
I'm
straightforward.
a master debater.
Yes. All right. So I'm linking these in chat right now. I believe Cell's also Cell, yes, is also there. Thank you very much, Cell, for linking those in chat. Here's the first question. So the launch in general, we've had our day one reviews. I'm sure you've watched all the videos and read all the reviews, Kyle.
Yes.
What's the assessments of this launch? The 2060 Super and 2070 Super, is it a good launch? Is it a bad launch? We're going to decide that. So those are the two options right there. We're not going to argue quite yet.
Okay.
Like I said, trying to move through this
Yep.
with some efficiency. So
Sure.
question 2, the second question, which also link in chat right now. Wait, hold on.
You gotta try this, man. It's so good.
I know, I gotta talk and stuff. Oops.
Oh.
So the Super GPU name, RTX 2060 Super and 2070
Sure.
Super, and the aesthetic choices. It's a combo question. Good or bad on those, because I believe you can have differing opinions on both of these questions.
Yeah.
Because as we've already kind of shown you, 2060 Super right here. By the way, speaking of the Super cards, this stream is being powered by the 2070 Super.
That's true.
Kyle installed it in the system down here that we're streaming from.
That I did. And so far, it's been fine.
I know, right?
It's been great. It's funny that the card that was just in there before that we've been using for a long time was the Radeon 7.
I know.
And if you look at Gamers Nexus's Steve's video, he says something about like the super cards like killing Radeon 7. It's just kind of funny that I just so happened to swap that card out for a super.
Because life imitates art.
It does.
That's
what I always say.
That's my assessment of that. Anyway, 2060 Super, if you guys haven't seen the close-ups there, you might be seeing the reflection right now. This design is extremely similar to the 2060 and 2070, but this middle part here is now a reflective glass or polished chrome, or it's like a mirror finish.
It's basically a mirror.
And then
it's exactly, it's super reflective.
And then they took the word super and put it after the 2060
in green,
with a bit of a bevel or an emboss or a datum. I forget what that's called.
Stamp looking.
It's stamped in. Yes, it's recessed.
There. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
So
description.
those are the aesthetics, and then the name. I thought it was interesting that in the past they've had a 2080 and then a 2080 Ti. You know, they've done that before. They had the 1070 that was up for a while, and then they got bored. And they're like, we need to launch a new graphics card. We don't need to. There's no competition. Let's just do 1070 Ti. 1070 Ti, better version of the 1070. So you could say that was that they serve similar functions when it comes to the naming scheme. Anyway, though, Kyle, GPU launch, good or bad? What do you think?
I'm going to play what I think would be devil's advocate here and say that it's good, better GPU, same price. And actually, I do think there's some weight to this because while I very much see another person's point that would say this really screws over the people who originally bought an RTX 2070, 2080, and now they're just kind of doing this like switcheroo. At the same time, you would have had to wait over like about a year. When did these cards initially launch? Like last year, right? So
you mean the RTX?
The RTX cards, you would have had less than a year, but still several months in order to get this deal. So
launched at Gamescom. I went to
Gamescom. Yeah, that's right. So technically, if it's an early adopters type of privilege, if you want something, if you want a new technology sooner than everyone else, you tend to pay a premium for it. And this is a well-known trait of the industry, and most people can accept this fact. So yeah, well, I think that there's some argument for the other side that says this should have been the landscape initially. I also see the value in paying a little bit more for something immediately, for something now, instead of waiting later for it to go on sale, even if it's branded under a different name.
Okay, you're wrong.
Okay.
First off, Nvidia, they're a bunch of dicks because obviously, there's no changes to the manufacturing process or the architecture here with these new versions of the cards. So clearly, the original GPUs that they launched from the RTX series last year, they gimped them intentionally. They made them crappier than they should have been. And anyone who's bought any of those cards in the interim, unless you bought a 2080 Ti, that's fine. Those are the smart people, the ones who went and spent over $1,000 on the graphics card. Then obviously, it's a kick in the balls, it's a slap in the ass, it's pulling the hair, and generally, it was getting kind of kinky, but white men, they're screwing around their customers. It's not nice of them. So what we should have had was these cards launched a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, and then they'd have no need to launch them again right now and call them Super, which is a stupid name. I'm moving on to the next question. So that's my point.
I definitely don't agree with anything you said.
Well,
stand by my shitty argument.
let's see what people say.
Wow.
People say, people very
Split.
torn. Wow, that is like literally within
Technically, I win by 2 votes.
3 votes of each other, 40-40.
But yeah, that's really polarizing.
Huh.
Holy moly.
That's interesting to...
And 20% of people are willing to go broke for the 2080 Ti Super
The
Duper.
Super Duper, well, that's going to be...
$5,000 card.
2080 Ti Super Duper is going to be just... It's going to be a hornswoggling. It's going to be a real... It's going to be an amazing product, is what I'm trying to say.
It will be good.
All right.
Hot
Next
damn.
question. Name and aesthetic choices. You went
Okay.
first on the first one, so I'm going to...
Yep.
Pardon me, guys. I'm going to try to finish this grape before I talk too much, because people in chat were getting offended. Talking with my mouth full. All right, here's what I'm going to say about the name and the aesthetic choices.
Okay.
They're both stupid.
Yep. No, you're wrong.
It's confusing. If you've watched any of the reviews on this, the number of times that the reviewers have to say the word super over and over again because the name is so similar to the 2070. And you can't just say RTX 2070 anymore. It used to be some, the names of graphics cards are absurdly long as it is. The full name of this graphics card is the Nvidia GeForce RTX 2060 Super, that's like 6 words.
Yeah.
Which is way too many words. Nvidia GeForce RTX 2060 Super. That's 5 words, but one of them's numbers, which counts more. So it's just confusing for people, and it also feels really like tacked on. Like another thing that Steve mentioned in his article was he tried to talk to Nvidia and ask where the name came from, and nobody could tell him. Nobody, which I think it means it's Jensen's idea.
Yeah, right.
I think
Yeah.
that's what it means.
Sure.
Which means I'm probably, like, if he ever sees this video, he's probably gonna get mad, and then I'm gonna be cut off from Nvidia now.
Oh no.
So never mind. I love the name. It's great.
He said it. We're just at my house, but I'll speak on his behalf. His words are his own. Sorry, Jensen.
That's true. RTX is technically 3 words because it stands for
RTX.
ray tracing.
Extreme.
It's always extreme. That's right. That just works. All right. So
All right,
Kyle,
I'm going to say that Super is good. Okay. So here's the thing: the name Super isn't great. The way the card looks, the shininess and the logo, isn't great. But at the end of the day, they don't have to be. They don't have to be great. The name can suck. The little logo can suck. At the end of the day, you're getting a product that performs a certain amount for a certain cost, a certain price. And if those 2 variables work for you, everything else should be irrelevant. Okay? We're getting too wrapped up in the cosmetics of things. This is why manufacturers keep cramming RGB into every single product possible, because everyone just focuses so much on the aesthetics of a product without giving any attention to actually how it performs or what a good value it might be or might not be. So I feel like at the end of the day, everyone has their preference, everyone's got an opinion about this sort of thing, but if you just look at the actual hardware, the technology, and the pricing points for each of these cards, I feel like that's a very secondary, petty thing to really focus on. So I'm going to say that, and I think it does make sense, something that is super, if you have X and you have X Super, it's very obvious. There's nothing confusing about the fact that this card's a little better. Are you? Okay. Clearly.
I was licking my fingers and I was about to tell you that there might be some greasy fingerprints on your 2060 Super.
Wifey
This
with
is
the
amazing.
steak.
There's garlic. She put garlic in it,
Yeah.
which is like cheating.
Yeah.
It's double cheating.
It's amazing.
So good. Okay.
All right, that was my argument. Probably gonna lose.
All right.
Says the man who hasn't pinned my PC segment. Yeah, that's super true.
That's very true.
Very good point there.
We're both liars.
Never listen to me.
All right. Results. Bad. Bad. Wow. Even good didn't even beat the
On the fence.
people who didn't even want to make a decision.
Holy crap. Which
right,
I could have seen coming. I think the worst part about it for me is that the reflectivity is a fingerprint magnet, that reflective piece in the middle.
Yeah.
And as a reviewer, it's terrible for B-roll. Like, I was trying to get like a shot of it, and it was like, oh my god, every time, any angle you're at, there's something in the background.
Either you're in the angle, or it's reflecting like the crap that's
Yeah.
behind your set that looks
Right.
horrible versus the set which is you've cleaned to look nice.
And it would have been a little bit better had it been a bit more like diffused reflection, like a bit smoky or foggy, so it's not like just a pure, it's like a mirror. They literally stapled a mirror onto the card, which I think is just, it seems like an afterthought, and honestly the word super seems like an afterthought too, so. Which makes sense, because they just sort of rushed this in response to AMD. It's not like they've been thinking about this and really plotting it out and giving good honest thought to it for a long time.
All right, well, I hope this information and discussion has been super helpful for you guys. We're
Sure it has.
super stoked that you joined us today. For my half of Awesome Hardware, we're going to end this half on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, stick around. We still got more coming at you. And if you're watching on YouTube, check the excuse me, the video description. You can find a link to Kyle's half, which we will begin streaming on momentarily. If you like to hit the thumbs up button, we always appreciate that too. We will be right back. Goodbye.
Goodbye.